Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Relationships Rule. I have a question for you. What does a child surviving a pioneering heart surgery have to do with building better organizations? Well, everything, it turns out. My guest today is Hanna Bauer, founder of HEARTnomics Enterprises and faculty member with the Maxwell leadership team. Hanna has spent nearly 3 decades helping CEOs and leadership teams get to the real root of why organizations struggle. And it almost never has to do with people not caring, which I would have thought it did, but there you go. So, basis for the conversation. It has to do with systems that have lost the rhythm. And Hanna's story is one of the most remarkable I've heard. And I think you're going to walk away from this conversation seeing both leadership and relationships in a completely new way. So, welcome to the show, Hanna, first of all.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for so much for having me, Janice. It's an honest pleasure, honor. I'm just super excited to get to talk with you this morning.
Thank you, Hanna, because you came to me blindly, right? I got a request from someone in your organization, and I get them all the time. And I kind of, I don't know. They don't all reach me. It's like they're too formal or they haven't done their homework or whatever. Something
Yeah.
said I needed to talk to you. And so I was so glad that I did before this conversation so that we could get a little sense of each other. And I'm really happy to have you on the show. So
Thank you.
before we get into your work, I want to start with your story because as I said to you before we went on air, it's the heart of everything. You were diagnosed as a child with a serious heart condition and went
Yes.
through years of treatments that didn't work and
Yep.
eventually became, well, I'll let you tell the story. So can you take us back to that time and what life was like for you and your family during those years and what happened?
Yeah, well, a lot of my younger years, my family's the one that reminded me, right? I mean, as a kid, I was diagnosed at the age of 4. So let's just say my childhood, as far as memories go, it was a lot of memories of things that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Things that I had to be watchful for, or things that I know I had to like stay behind and just observe. So as far as my own recollection is that day to day. I did learn to live that. And I think as a kid, that is something that we're usually not exposed to. At least with my children, they're not usually the day to day, they're
Right, right.
they're they're more like moment to moment. They think all these days, right? Like there's no concept of time. Well, that was not the case with me. I had very much a concept of time because of again, the heartbeat was something that we're not aware of was something I was extremely aware of. It would be very painful. And sometimes I would go into tachycardia. I would go into arrhythmia as well. Arrhythmia meaning that the heart would go abnormal rhythms. Tachycardia meaning that it would go super fast.
Mhm.
So I lived with that, the uncertainty of when it would happen. Like there was nothing that would forecast, hey, if you do this or if you bend this way or,
Right.
something happened or stress or whatever. So there was no way as a kid for me to be able to even plan for a normal birthday party or normal day of school. There's normalcy. So
Yeah.
as growing up, that was a lot of my perspective. I learned to interact with my environment really from the hospital bed and really learning from even the things that I couldn't do
Yes.
still be able to do. There was still ambition enough in me as a kid, and I would have to thank my parents, my family that always believed in more for me, that even in those circumstances, there was still that tension of,
Sure.
hey, I want to explore more. Survived 2 heart attacks by the age of 10. Like I said, it was very, there was no cure in sight. We didn't really know what caused it. What that looked like for me was from the age of 10 after the heart attacks through the age of about 14, 15, and it was a fight for my life. I had less than 6 months to live, a diagnosis with no cure or pathway in sight. And that's where a lot of my story comes in as I grow older,
Mhm.
becoming a preteen, going through interventions and surgeries that didn't work, including a heart cath, including an open heart surgery. Eventually, that led to an opportunity as I was waiting for a heart transplant
Oh,
to, yeah, to have a never been done surgery. Now, what was interesting about this is that a heart transplant at the time would have given me about 10 more years. Assuming that everything went well, right? It's something like
Right.
there's a heart, and that with the heart would go along with my systems, and
Right.
from that point, be able to go forward. But then again, it's 10 years. At that point, it'll be 22 years I would have made it to. So this opportunity of the surgery, my doctor, always a visionary, thinking like he recognized that I had a strong heart. That's something that he always told me. You have a strong muscle, you have a strong heart. It just had some electrical things that
Uh,
didn't quite let it operate well. And 1992, they did this, what they call a heart ablation. And it was an innovative surgery at the time. I was actually one of the first kid, if not the first kid. And it was done in conjunction with the Emory University Hospital
in
at the time,
Georgia.
Eggleston, yeah, Scottish Rite. So it was an experimental surgery that I didn't know the impact of it until about 20 years afterwards, when I get a call from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and they said like, "Hey, would you be open to celebrate a 20-year anniversary? We want to reconnect you with the doctor and the
Oh,
admission
wow.
team and go in there." And by the way, that's when I found out that 3,000 other kids have been saved from this surgery, where I was the first recipient of here.
So, can I just ask a quick question there? So,
Yeah.
was it because I've had a couple of friends who've had those ablation surgeries
Mhm.
that who've had heart issues as older adults, but
Yeah.
was it was it not heard of before at all for adults as well as children until that
Correct.
1992? Okay, so it was that
Correct.
was the beginning of it.
So from what I heard, and again, because this is talk to my parents, again, I'm 14.
Yes,
So I mean, they did ask me in a sense, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. At this point, I had already gone through a lot of things. I lived in the CCU. I've been in
sure.
the hospital. So they did ask, I did hear who were the recipients before. And they had tried them on like 90-year-olds, 80 something year olds, that had some heart disease, but they just had not tried it yet on a young kid.
Hmm.
And this is where a lot of my methodology came in, because this is where I really found what innovation was. The technology was there, right? I mean, like an ablation. What is an ablation? Is the burning away. I mean, we've treated that even with bleeding, even in the Civil War, right? They
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
literally catheterize the areas so
Cauterized,
that,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the bleeding would stop. It just had not been used for heart.
Okay.
So that was the innovative part. And that really not only inspired me once I learned what that was, it's like, what is the many things that we have where sometimes we think an innovator has to be brand new, never been done, like all these things. And really it's just even just using what you have, just using it in a different
Yeah.
way becomes innovative. And that was a solution for my heart.
So, okay, at that age, as a teenager, you're not sitting in a hospital bed building a leadership philosophy.
No.
So, when did the meaning of what you had been through actually catch up with you? And when did the light go on? What did it feel like when it did?
Well, I always wanted to be normal, right? Like
Sure, of
whatever normal
course.
was.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't know how to be well.
yeah,
Once I had the surgery, and it's like they tested it, because they would always test every time,
sure.
with either it was drugs or the open heart. They knew right away, by injecting me with adrenaline, to
Mhm.
see if the heart would go into the abnormal rhythms. So when the heart consistently wouldn't go into the abnormal rhythms, and suddenly my doctor said, "Okay, go do something
Oh
new.
my
Go
gosh.
do
Yeah.
that part." I'm like,
Go dancing.
yeah, I exactly. I didn't really know, like, right? It's like suddenly I had like this new way of life. At that point, I was already a freshman in high school.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, I was always studious. I kept on doing that, but let me just say that I think I was freaked out about being well, because I had become so cognizant of
sure.
every little thing. Like, oh my goodness, is this going to be me being able to control this, or is this going to lead to my next heart attack, right? Where I have to go back to the hospital. So I would say it would take about 2 years for me after that to learn what well was. And that is something I to my leaders. So, sometimes we go through the crisis, and we go through what, we give it what it needs to be at the time. And we do have to get acquainted what well is, and we have to know what well is. So once I started being okay with being well, I wanted to do something like, okay, well, what do I do? I don't really know what to do. I lived in hospitals. I
Right.
basically was Bubble Boy, like the movie. Just like, what do I do? I do what only I knew to do, and that was going back to the hospital and volunteering, because those
Okay.
were the people that really impacted me, were the
Sure.
volunteers.
Oh,
They would play
interesting.
games. They were the ones that brought normalcy to me. They were the ones, if it was a card or if it's a board game or if it's a craft room, whatever that was. So I started serving in that way.
Oh, beautiful.
My summers, yeah, going
Yeah.
back to Eggleston, going back to the local hospitals. I just found ways to volunteer in the hospital because that to me was normal. Like really, I wanted to do that for somebody else. And in one of those times, I had the opportunity to serve in the high school, and we had a speaker that talked about, the leadership is service. And I'm like, wait,
That's what I've been
I
doing.
serve?
Yeah.
Said,
Yeah.
that's what they call it. They call volunteer services. That mean I'm a leader. And I think that's honestly the first time where the light bulb poof, went on. It's like, I don't know how to be a leader. I know how to serve. And
Yes.
if you're telling me that leaders get to serve, I want to do that.
I love that. I
That's where it
love
started.
that. So, so you were still in high school then you started to see your path forward
Mhm.
in the studies that you wanted to do. Okay. So, um, I'm watching how, okay.
Well, here's the deal, right? Because I think a lot of times when you come out of something, you try to catch up. So I think that was one of the things. I even got a little, what my teacher called it, the catch-up award, like a little catch-up
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that, because I constantly felt like I was catching up. Well, once I had my normal card, and once I had like, hey, you got this because you've been serving. I know how to do this. I started going for everything. So I actually amazingly got elected as a lieutenant governor for the Rotary Club Junior.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
did the
Yeah.
sector. In college, I got elected for the student government. I was vice president of student services, then became president of the Senate. Then I was available to do all kinds of, I founded one of the first, actually the first fraternity that is a leadership, Omicron Delta Kappa, for Georgia State University. I started doing all these things, winning like leadership vision and all this stuff because I wanted to go 100% and I wanted to equip. So that was kind of like what happened, like in my whole
Yeah.
catch up thing.
Yeah.
But my whole catch up also led to my burnout.
Well, I see that once that light went on and you saw that connection between all that service and leadership, you just went for it. I mean,
Yeah.
like it gave you the confidence. It gave you the confidence to become the leader that you are, which I love. Okay, let's talk about this. A lot of leaders I talk to assume that when things go wrong, it's a people problem.
Mm.
What shifts for a leader when they start seeing it as a systems problem instead? What happens? What do they
Well,
see?
and this is where I was, right? Because I mean, again, I became all passion, which is obviously because I mean, even the perspective that I had is all about people and just going for it and all those things. But passion and vision without a way, a systems or process is going to lead to that chaos. So that's one of the things that I realized later as an entrepreneur when I had to be able to like not only, hey, it's not just about us doing it, but it's really when you're talking about business and even like carrying out a vision, you're talking about multiplication, you're talking about replicability, you're talking about ownership, transferring of ownership.
Hmm.
And how do you transfer ownership? Well, you can't transfer gut. You can't just transfer, hey, this is like my transfer just the passion like this. There has to be a pathway for people to be able to not only be invited and enter the conversation and enter the work, but also to be able to continue and evolve the work. And that's where processes and systems comes in. That's where we're transferring it beyond not only the visionary, not only the team that really may have even been initially impacted, but that's where as leaders we get to invite and talk about the impact and the sustainability question come in. And processes and systems allow for that. It allows for the multiplication, for the sustainability, to where it goes beyond just what I physically have the strength to do, but it's like, hey, how do we all get to really become part of this conversation? And I learned that as I was going in my journey, a very passionate leader, but then realized that I was getting a lot of chaos because I didn't have quite a way
Mm,
for people to be able to repeat things. So then there'd be also a time, so well, it became the Hannah show, which is not what we wanted. That's not at all. That's not transfer. That's not equipping my people.
right.
So I had to do processes and systems so that they were equipped, because when they were equipped, then they were the ones that were even better innovation than what I could do. Had to move from the soloist to the conductor. And the only way that that can really happen is to have the systems in place and the processes that will allow other people to do to shine.
So okay, so your company HEARTnomics is
Hmm.
I love the name, by the way. It's great.
Thank you.
It brings together heart and economics, the human
Yeah.
and the operational. So okay, when you first started incorporating that, how did it come to life? What does it actually look like in practice inside an organization? So you come to an organization that's perhaps in chaos, and
Yeah.
do you have to start by getting buy-in from the top people, or do you, yeah, okay. So how,
Yeah. So a lot of times, right? I mean, like, and I run into both organizations, and this is where I started, even in the university, or even like afterwards. It's like, you're all about the people, and hey, we all know each other, and
yeah,
you have your group, but then you have this vision that is bigger than you, and then it's like, oh, how do we maintain other people? Because maybe other people come in, and you can't sustain that. You can't sustain the people, so you kind of keep on. You bring one in, you lose one, you bring somebody else. So that's kind of like the chaos with the passion. But then on the other side, you have very much leading by processes, by systems, by memos, by policies, by compliance things, where it becomes very rigid. So what happens with something that's rigid? Well, you have a storm and
you're right. They
boop.
don't want to do it. They backlash.
No,
Yeah.
no. And change? No way. Change is
Yeah.
hard to do,
Yeah.
right? Adaptability is hard to do, because guess what? Trust is not there. Because
Right.
now really the relationship has been more policies or driven by something else, where it's not really driven by the people, or even who
With
are
heart. With heart. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have the chaos, the love, or you have the rigidity there. So when we're talking about how the combining, there is a convergence that needs to happen, because we do need the processes and the systems. But again, the processes and the systems are to serve the people. So the people have also the governance, the responsibility come in the governance over those processes and systems, not letting those processes dictate the governance of the people. So that's where, when I go into organizations, the first thing I need to do when we talk is that diagnostic. Where are we in the process? What are the different functions? When I had my heart disease, when I was 4 years old, they thought I had a bad case of mommyitis. Like, hey, your daughter
Really?
is just, oh yeah, oh, she's just crying a lot. Oh, she just misses her mama, all this stuff. And then I had a cough, because a lot of times, even with the heart, the cough. So, they always give her cold syrup and all
Oh
that, or,
dear.
couldn't breathe. So let's look at about asthma. So there was all these symptoms. They never thought about looking into the heart until
Right.
I collapsed, because no, kids don't get heart disease. That's
Before.
usually
Yeah.
for older people, and especially back in the 80s,
Yeah.
no, you don't. So I think that also I see that happen in organizations a lot. We look at, hey, we have a changeover, a lot of people coming in and coming out. We have maybe profits are dwindling. Maybe the big customer loyalty is not there. Or hey, we keep on adding all this technology, but we have a lot really inventory even in the technology that we have in the apps. And that's the part where we get stuck in the symptoms, but
Hmm.
we're not really looking at what is causing that.
Right.
Remember, my heart was causing a strain in my lungs. It was causing a strain in my emotions. It was causing that, but really
Hmm.
the problem was the heart. The solution was not treating my emotions. It was not treating my breathing. They had to treat my heart. And the same way, so when I work with organizations, I approach it the same way, is diagnostic. Yes, these are the symptoms, but let's look at the different functions that are going on in your organization, where
Hmm.
some functions may be strained. We all have the different ways that expresses, but normally in a company that expresses by a lot of communication problems, perhaps over meetings, one meeting after the meeting before
Yeah.
the meeting after the meeting. The misconception of what done is. Is this done? Is it
Yeah.
done? Oh, it's almost done. Even just in that and conflicting priorities, right? Even with the meetings where the morning we spend the time making a decision on that, the afternoon we're having to explain it or maybe take it back. So those are a bit of kind of like where did we start coming in, where I usually am called when there's some of those things. But as far as the leadership, yes, if we talk about leadership, who notices a lot of times this is the C-suite, because it's been either their compliance.
Yeah.
They're being look at, hey, we need to look a bit into this because of something has happened. But also because of they do see the vision, they do see what are some of the threats that are coming in. And there needs to be support at every level so that we can uh, address not only the diagnosis, but really create and work on solutions
Hmm.
that are right for them at that right time. And that does require them.
Well, you talked about, you mentioned trust, and trust, of course, to me is huge, and it keeps
Mhm.
coming up all the time. And so um it'll either hold a team together or it'll quietly tear it apart, right?
Oh, yeah.
So um I guess you have to get the trust of the leaders first, and then the leaders have to either build or rebuild the trust that's been damaged in the company with their employees, I would think. And so,
Mhm.
um, do you, I imagine you don't go into a company where they're not willing to do that, but maybe you do. Maybe that is like, hey guys, you're looking at the wrong thing, look
Well, I
this
mean,
way.
yeah, I mean, again, I'm not there to convince anybody with
Right.
this, so, because you have to be willing. Trust is going to take work.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that. I think, you can lose trust very quickly, and it's going to take some work to get it back. Um, I think one of the big misconceptions that we have about trust is that if I fail, they're not going to trust me. Or
Mm.
if those failures are going to be just not, they can't trust me again. So you kind of lose hope even in building the trust because of your past failures. And that's not true. Um, Proof even in me. I had two heart surgeries that failed. It was the same leader, it was the same doctor.
Mhm.
But talking about it and even building off of his hope, building off of the stuff allowed for taking that chance again for an innovative surgery that was not, it was in a sense worse than the other ones. At least the other ones had a track record. This one had no track record. But we very much believed because of the rapport that he had built with us.
Right.
The
You'd had the same doctor all throughout,
Yeah,
right?
the
Yeah.
entire time it was
Yeah.
him. He was leading it.
Yeah.
So I know he felt the pain when it didn't work. He felt the pain just with us, and he was very empathetic. Again, it's the little girl, it's one heart.
Yeah.
And then even just think about the not only the pressure, but breaking the news to my parents when it didn't work, and
Mhm.
also breaking the news to like, let's try again. And we
Wow.
did. But that's because
Wow.
of the level of trust that he had built with us.
Mhm.
Um, and so I took that as a lesson even for me. It
Mhm.
was I had to learn to get into a healthy relationship with failure. And I even go back to those moments because it's like, hey, this was a big deal. I mean, I can't. I know. I remember being asked on that last one, and I remember my parents. But being a mom of five, I can't imagine the level of trust that required.
Yeah.
And I will say that to the leaders as well. It's not the failure that causes people to not trust you, is the way that you're handling and the lessons that you're talking about in that failure. Failure is going to come.
Mhm.
Failure actually means you're doing something.
Mhm.
We
Mm.
don't fail. We got to learn to fail together. But also, what really makes that failure be that learning moment is that rapport. And I believe that's really what's missing. Why do we have this lack of trust? Is because we're trusting automation in a way. Hey, my automatic emails to keep that relationship with you. I'm trusting these automated text messages or my social media posts to keep up my relationship with you. Or you should know because I made the announcement to the entire world. So now it's your responsibility to know that. And that's my way of keeping our relationship together, and not really building that rapport, building that time, which is going to that trust is what's going to allow me and you to be
Mhm.
able to adapt in times of, hey, it feels like the roof is collapsing on top of us or the floor taken from under us. It's also going to be able to be as agile, where we're going to be more willing to take on risks that are going to help us get to a better place together. If we don't have that trust there, it's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, it may actually even take you back when things don't go right, because guess what? We're not good the first time. There's nothing that we've never done.
Right.
We're gonna fail, and that's not bad. That's feedback.
You know, it's funny. Um, I'm one of those people that always believes that I want to learn from that mistake. So let's look at the thing that went wrong.
Mm,
And so I play bridge. My husband and I play bridge. And
okay.
I love playing bridge. And bridge is a card game that every hand is different. Okay. And but there's rules and there's communications that you agreements that you have with your partner when you're playing, so that we know what each bid means when you're bidding for the hands. So when we get a hand that we've like made a huge mistake, or we've blown it, or we got the bottom board, like that we came last in that hand, I want to know why. I want to know how we could have done it differently. He
Mhm.
hates that. He hates that postmortem. He wants to just move on. But I don't think
Yeah,
I think you learn from those things more than you learn from the ones you do well at.
that's so true.
Yeah,
That's so
I can't help myself. I think that also comes with, and my listeners know this because I'm always talking about curiosity, and that being such a huge
Mhm.
factor in anything that I do. I'm very curious. And I think that the more curious you are, the more you can help to build trust with people, because you're you're asking them about themselves and building some trust along the way. I don't know. What's your take on that?
Oh, 100%. I think even just approaching as curiosity is a big deal, not as a judgment. Because I think that's a lot of times why we don't look into those parts, because like, oh, it's and my kids would say it's cringy. I don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
look at that, right? Because we don't. Who wants to look at our failure? Like, it's not like fun
Right.
or something all the thing, but if we look at them like failures and not like learning opportunities, and it's really again a matter of perspective, because it's
Right.
absolutely true 100%. Every pivot in my leadership and the way that I do life and my relationships and my parenting have come from the lowest and darkest moments as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And we do have to go back in there. As a matter of fact, for example, when I got the call from the hospital about my surgery, it was 20 years later. And also I had tried to hide it for 20 years. I
Oh,
did not
really?
want to talk. Yeah, I wasn't something like, "Hey, yeah, heart disease. Oh yeah, I had that." So I would like almost sweep it like under the rug. Yeah, no, no big deal. I didn't tell anybody all this stuff because I didn't want people to think I was weak,
Oh my
and
goodness.
didn't
Why
want
would they think that? But that's interesting.
again,
Yeah.
that's in the
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
right there. I don't want people to think it's weak or give me a pass
Well,
or, think all of this stuff. So then that's what came. And now, I mean, honestly, after looking at that and seeing it for what it was, it's like that didn't make me weak. That made me strong. And that doesn't just make me strong. It's the way I've been doing things.
yeah.
And that's why I talk about it now. I mean, like,
Well,
honestly, that was my pivot point.
I have to ask you because as you mentioned, I know you're a mother of five,
Yeah.
and with did you consciously tell or not tell your children about your experience, and how did that affect your parenting as they were growing? I know you've got one little one, but the boys are older, right? So
Yeah. So I think it really came to the front, and it wasn't because I wanted to, but at least with my doctors and my family, because each pregnancy it took a toll on my heart.
Mm, okay.
So at that point, it became like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
only everything's high risk. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm used to the doctors, all this stuff. It's no big deal. It's okay. Like, how bad, like, how life threatening are we talking about? Honestly, each one. Because I mean, I had lived with that. So,
Yes.
again, my perspective is like, I get it. I
Yeah.
know there's gonna be complications, but let's move on, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, that was a way that I had coped. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's the way I was doing it at the time.
Got it.
Um, when I my kids as they were growing up, and then, well, they got to be a part of the documentary. They got to be
Oh,
part of when like the 100-year anniversary, and they're like, "Oh, this is like this actually did happen." It's like, yeah, I got proof. It's just not mom. I usually told them like, well, you can tell people you're like your mom's a zombie, so you cannot be like zombie baby. Just because how many times heart failure I had, and even with my heart attack and all that. So, coming back and all that. But I would tell them, but I think that even as younger, they wouldn't
yeah.
completely understand, except when I would get a bit tired. And I did start experiencing, and that's also part of my story.
Mhm.
Because you would think somebody that has gone through heart disease and will be very much aware about stress. And, making sure that we're resting and getting enough sleep and staying away from caffeine. Not this one.
Well,
So,
you're a go-getter. I can tell that. So I understand that.
yeah, so I started suffering a bit of that, and I think that's when it became a bit more real for my kids
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, we gotta help mom. And actually, she did have this heart thing, so
Yeah,
we need to kind of keep her hydrated
I
and help
love
with
it.
that. So I think in that sense, it became more real.
But did you ever have fear for your kids that
Yeah.
you did? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the main things,
Yeah.
that they were gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And which is again interesting about my case because it wasn't a congenital condition
Yeah.
and it's not even genetic. There was nobody in my family prior to
Wow.
me, and actually none of my kids have anything like
Thank
that. So
goodness.
yes,
Yeah.
big time. They're super healthy. They're all athletes. I mean, I get to enjoy their childhood, either through
Yeah.
football, wrestling,
Yeah.
and baseball, things
Love
that
it.
I couldn't do. Yeah, they get to do.
Oh, that's good. Okay, back to business for a minute because I had to ask you that because I'm all about the kids. Um, I know that you're a faculty member with the Maxwell leadership team, and I've only
Yeah.
had a small experience with John Maxwell's leadership um, books and experience, but I know it's like world renowned, and
Yes.
you are part of his a very small number of members of his faculty who
Yeah.
train tens of thousands of coaches around the world in his leadership curriculum, correct?
Yes. That's correct.
Yeah. So,
We yeah, we have
how
about
has
56
teaching
staff.
that at such a large scale shaped the way you think about relationships in business?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of it is you gotta not just know the way, but you gotta show the way and guide the way. So it puts a lot on me also, not in a bad way, but hey, I'm gotta practice what I preach in a sense. Like,
Right.
like this has got to be real in my life. Which has made me that much more not only responsible and owning it. And I know that it works. It works because I live it.
Yeah.
So it comes, in a sense, it comes easy to speak from that place
Okay.
because I understand when the questions that come, and regardless of the questions, because I've been there. I've been through all that. I've been through the imposter syndrome. How could I possibly teach this if you really know all the stuff that I did to how am I even going to really make it this a living to where is somebody really going to pay for this? That I love doing this. Do you really get paid for what you love? So even
Yeah.
like myths and things being tested, but I think overall is the community aspect,
Mm,
and building community with other people, regardless of where they're at in the world, regardless of the different backgrounds, has really, for me, have been one of the most amazing parts of the experience. We've gotten to travel together to go do country transformations. We've gone to
fantastic.
Dominican
Yeah.
Republic, yeah, Argentina, Panama. And really, I would say, how we call him, Papa John. He outworks us all.
I was going to
He
say,
really
how
does.
is he? How old is he now? He is,
Oh my gosh, I think he's gonna go into his 80th coming soon. I think we're
oh,
celebrating
okay.
that
I
really,
thought he was
really.
older, but okay. So,
Yeah.
um, but he's still doing well. And
Oh, he's doing
yeah,
fantastic. And
yeah,
like I said, when we go into this country transformations, I mean, like we're tired, coming back in
sure.
the evening and getting up early. No, he's like already on a helicopter. He's gone and done podcasts. He's then gone on stages. He's met with major country officers. Then he
Wow.
comes over and is there with us,
Yeah.
like loving on us, encouraging us. And I'm like, how in the world? I mean, I'm
Wow.
just sitting there is just incredible.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so to be able to see that, to be in that environment, it has called me higher.
Yeah.
And I've really seen that out, I think that comes in service, in any service. Anytime that you sit out there to serve,
Yeah.
really, I'm just like, my goodness, I get so much back from that
Wonderful.
service. That's how I feel about it as well.
So, for someone listening right now who suspects that their organization, big or small, or even their own leadership might be out of rhythm, what's the first step that they should take?
Well, one is being aware of that. Because
Okay.
I would
Yes.
say, like,
Yes.
being aware what is a healthy rhythm. I think a lot of times we know something's kind of wrong or something's off, but we don't really take the time to let's look into that. And again, I've been guilty of that even when I had a heart disease and when I didn't have heart disease,
Mm-hmm.
because I would ignore the very signals of what my body would tell me. Hey, you need to slow down. You need to rest. Drink some water. Simple things that really made a world of difference. So I would say that first thing to the leaders is be aware. There is a rhythm to your organization. There is a rhythm to the way that you work. Everything that we have around us tells us there's a rhythm. That's why there's seasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's times in the day. There's a time for sunrise, there's a time for sunset. There's everything, there's a time. So I think first of all, being aware of what that rhythm is, and then seeing how am I aligning to that rhythm right now? How am I helping my people align with that rhythm right now? One of the big things for me is that you cannot give what you don't have, and also you can't change what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So with both, there comes in that initial, firstly yourself responsibility,
Right.
and really understanding, becoming aware of that, taking the time to understand. Like I said, for me, once I was out of the trauma, I had to get acquainted with what well was.
Mm-hmm.
So that when I knew what well was, I also understood, oh, there's still some areas of my life that are not well. And once I started getting into rhythm, and not in a sense of judgmental, but being aware and let's do something about it,
Mm-hmm.
it became the freedom and ability to then serve. And when I served, I was able to serve fully, not
Mm-hmm.
serve out of just duty or
Yeah.
just, or responsibility,
Yeah.
or this is what we'll do, but it was just an expression of me. So I would say that to the leaders. What I find a lot of work with the leaders is there's a burnout level. And I can tell you, being a heart patient, burnout feels the same as
Mm-hmm.
heart disease. And that comes again from not taking the time and understanding, hey, your leadership, your work really is an expression of your purpose. And really also a response. The response that you get in your leadership is that fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
So ask yourself, are you being fulfilled right now with the rhythm that you're leading?
Mm. Good question. That's good. All right. Just a last couple of short, quick fire questions before we
Mhm.
wrap up. So, are you a reader? I'm guessing you are. And if you
Yeah.
read, yeah. You read real books still, not ebooks
Yes.
and things like that. So, what are you reading right now?
Well, I had this is Fire Ready Aim.
AIM? Okay.
Yeah. So,
Who's
which
that?
is this is oh my goodness, I don't know
It's
the
okay.
the
I
author.
remember the book, but I don't think I've read it.
Yeah, so it's about really doing things before you feel like you're really ready.
Mm,
And really the in entrepreneurship, making sure that you are, hey, in business, you gotta keep what the sales cycle is and what getting to that first financial different
yeah.
stages, in understanding the different stages that different businesses go through. So that's the latest one.
Okay. Do you read non fiction as well?
Not really.
No, I
No,
figured,
there's
yeah.
always no, yeah. It's always
Business
no
books. All right.
business.
What is your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
Oh, the kids.
Yeah,
I love the kids. We enjoy swimming, we enjoy cooking. So that is honestly the precious time, especially because I see how fast they grow.
I know. It's
And
amazing,
oh my
right?
goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
totally.
that's my favorite. That and dancing. I can't
Oh,
deny.
what kind of dancing?
I like, well, salsa, merengue. I like to do Zumba. At least I get my dancing groove on
I
with that.
love dancing, and I'm unfortunately my knees won't let me dance anymore. And when I did Zumba, it killed my knees because it's all
Oh
that
no.
back and forth,
Yes.
force. But I used to dance a lot when I was younger. Love dancing. It's amazing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love it. It's
So
just,
that's
I think
great.
it keeps you young, it
Yeah.
keeps you energetic, and so I dance with my little one the most. She's
Yeah.
the one. My teenage boys, they're not into
Oh,
dancing like
mom. Yeah.
that.
But that's wonderful. And I mentioned my curiosity. So, last question.
Yeah.
It's a two-parter. Do you believe that curiosity is innate or learned? And part two, what are you most curious about these days?
I think it's innate. And it's of course just nurtured, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like not getting in trouble for being curious. I think it's really sad that as we grow older, we lose that
Yeah.
curiosity. But I believe it's something that's healthy. I'm glad to hear more and more people are talking about it, and especially like with coaching being in again, it's fun. It's okay to be curious, and it takes the sting out of so many things,
Yeah.
even
That's great.
like the bad things or good things. It's just, hey, I'm curious about this. So definitely innate. I see my
Okay.
kids doing that. And what was the second part of the
And
question?
what are you most curious about these days?
Well, there's a couple of things, honestly. I am curious about, with all the uncertainty, I mean, we're seeing like our social response to a lot of things. So I am curious on as we're seeing these challenges arise, in uh, crisis reveal a
Yes.
lot that are in there.
Yes.
So I am
Every day there's
curious.
another one revealed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am curious, the bold voices, how or the how, I guess in the next wave, how are those bold voices going to rise up? How is this generation going to take on leadership?
Mm.
Because I think that's really where we're hurting too in the younger generation in leadership. So I'm curious about the impact of the recent crises and what seems to be on looming crisis. What's the immediate reaction going to be with our not only our generation, our young
Mhm.
generation,
Mhm.
but also even with the older ones as we're passing on the baton in that sense. So
Yeah.
that I'm
That's
curious
a whole
about.
other conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah. This conversation has been a gift. I appreciate
Oh, thank
um,
you.
you sharing your story with us and the idea that when systems lose rhythm, everything downstream struggles, and that the fix starts with human connection, not just better processes, is something I think every leader needs to hear. Thank you for bringing your entire story to this conversation and for the work that you do helping organizations find their way back to what matters most. And for everyone listening, I hope this one stays with you. Hannah, you can be found at HEARTnomics.com. Is that correct? And
That's
on
correct.
LinkedIn. Yeah, HEARTnomics.com and on LinkedIn, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I encourage you to listen. Tell us if you like what you heard, let us know, and reach out to Hannah for any more information about what she does. So thank you again. Appreciate you. And remember to stay connected and be remembered. If today's show inspired you to make a new connection, why not start with me? Head over to LinkedIn and connect with me. Be sure to let me know you are a podcast listener because I select one listener each month who connects with me on LinkedIn for a complimentary profile audit. Don't forget to stay connected and be remembered.